I'm bleeding to death.
Where are you?
I'm bleeding to death.
Stay on the phone with me.
My ex-boyfriend just stabbed me to death.
Who's there with you? Who's there with you?
You're not gonna die. You're not gonna die.
Stay on the phone with me.
Valentine's Day is meant to be a celebration of love, but Valentine's Day 2009 would be a day of unimaginable horror for Tiana Notice. Welcome to Viral Crimes. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories. Tiana Angelique Notice was born on February 4, 1984. She was born to the parents of Alvin A. Notice and Kathy Lewis. As a child, she was recognized for always possessing a smile that lit up a room. Tiana was deemed so clever that she began her first year of college during her senior year of high school. She was well ahead of her peers in terms of both academics and class standing. When she joined college, she started pursuing a master's degree in communications at the University of Hartford, where she had previously earned a bachelor's degree in political science. According to her mother, Tiana enjoyed debating, thus everyone thought it was a great idea for her to become a lawyer. Her relatives said that God, her family, and her friends were the most significant aspects of her life. In 2007, Tiana connected with a guy named James on an internet dating site. Tiana had recently broken up with her college boyfriend after a 5-year relationship, so she wasn't seeking another serious relationship. She decided to go on a date with James, and the two of them met in the public place. James presented to Tiana that he was a manager at a financial firm, had his own house, didn't have children yet, but desired to do so in the future. The two started a relationship. James appeared to be a great catch, but everything he told Tiana would turn out to be untrue. In addition, James provided Tiana with a phone on his plan and gave her tires for her vehicle. Tiana felt he was simply being kind at the moment. However, James is given a 5-month prison term for domestic violence against a prior partner 6 months into their relationship, and Tiana finds out he has a criminal record for a number of other violent offenses, including assault. About a year into the relationship, Tiana doesn't want to be bothered with a relationship with James anymore. When she learned about his violent past is a bit unclear. At some point, Tiana is forced to take a restraining order out against James. In his rage, Carter files a restraining order against Tiana. He was claiming that she assaulted him and that she kicked his headlight or taillight at the time and actually punched him in the face. Despite James not being hurt, the cops nonetheless made the complaint. For 2 weeks, James was forbidden from speaking with Tiana. A woman by the name of Jessica Banderas started sending Tiana emails. The lady identified herself as James' ex-girlfriend. Tiana continued to receive non-stop threatening and offensive emails for a couple of days. The emails read, "Trust me baby girl, you are going to lose everything, as God is my witness, punishment is on the way, so be prepared, you will have bad luck, you hear me? Remember this email when karma bites you in the ass." Tiana returned to the police on January 13, 2009, claiming to have been receiving emails that she believed were from James. The cops informed her they could do nothing until she could provide evidence it was indeed her ex-boyfriend James. Tiana continues to get harassing calls, texts, and emails from Carter, and she keeps going back to the police to report him to no effect. According to Tiana's mother, she went and visited the police station 33 times in 6 weeks. Tiana's mother claims that Carter also follows Tiana as she shops, commutes to and from her temporary work at a nearby university, and waits outside her apartment building in his vehicle. But Carter continues to be overlooked by the cops. And after one trip to the nearby Waterbury Police Department, Tiana was in tears because he had constantly contacted her at work. She was in her car crying hysterically and she says, "Mom, you wouldn't believe these people, they treated me like dirt. They didn't believe anything I told them. They thought I was lying, and one officer accused me of having a fake restraining order," said Kathy. "Then I spoke with a sergeant that said, 'Oh, nothing's going to happen to your daughter.' He snarled at me. And I'm like, look, I don't want my daughter to become a statistic, and I'm telling you now. If something happens to my daughter, you better move to another planet." Tiana was required to appear in court alongside James to present their respective defenses after James obtained another restraining order against her. This time, Tiana had printed the harassing emails, and James lacked any evidence that she had harassed him in the past. They both received restraining orders against one another for a period of 6 months. James returned to the police station on January 31, 2009, claiming Tiana had given him a flyer with her name, photo, and phone number on it. Despite their suspicions, the police looked into it. Tiana claimed the letter was not sent by her, and February 2009, the relationship between Tiana and James completely ended. Tiana struck up a conversation with Robert, her ex. They intended to reconcile, and they decided to get married. Her friends and family claims that Tiana told James about her plans to get back with her ex-boyfriend Robert and get married, and that's when James' harassment intensified. Then, things turn rather worrisome when Tiana discovers that her vehicle has been damaged in the parking lot of her apartment building. All 4 of Tiana's tires were slashed on February 7. She had no evidence yet, but she felt certain that James was responsible. She informed her father, Alvin, of all that was occurring and asked him to install a security system. She got many calls from James while she was at work on February 13, the day before she would be killed. This time, she had her coworker as a witness. When she phoned the police, they advised her to contact the Waterbury, Connecticut police instead, since that is the community where she works. When she arrived at that station after work, the officers informed her they had trouble accepting the validity of the restraining order. They didn't believe it was real. They instructed her to get a copy by fax from the Plainville police. Around 7:20 p.m. that evening, she arrived home and discovered a message from James pleading with her to accept him back. Tiana believed she had all the necessary evidence to get James arrested by the police. The message read, "Tiana, forgive me. I never cheated on you. If I'm lying, may God take my life. Forgive me for everything else I have done." Tiana went to the Plainville police on February 14, 2009, Valentine's Day, to have them fax a copy of her restraining order and to show them the letter. James was not arrested despite the police having promised Tiana that they would. Instead, they gave him a call to let him know that Tiana had been in there and that they would arrest him if he broke the law again. Finding out that Tiana had been to the police station to report him enraged James. Tiana's father Alvin warned her not to go to her apartment or anywhere near it and just wait for the police to arrest James, but Tiana makes the error of returning to the apartment to pack a suitcase the next day, on the evening of Valentine's Day. Tiana left for home believing she was protected. She just intended to quickly hurry home, pick up her laundry, and spend the weekend with her mother. On Valentine's Day evening, a furious James is now waiting for her to return home while hiding in the shadows of her apartment building. As Tiana approaches her front door, James stabs her around 20 times, twice in the heart. She manages to phone 911 despite her weakness. Tiana called 911 at 9:41 p.m. while screaming, "I'm bleeding to death, my ex-boyfriend stabbed me to death."
I'm bleeding to death.
Where are you?
I'm bleeding to death.
Stay on the phone with me.
My ex-boyfriend just stabbed me to death.
Who's there with you? Who's there with you?
You're not gonna die. You're not gonna die.
Stay on the phone with me.
On the 911 call, you can hear how quickly she is declining. She becomes unconscious after that. James' vehicle was observed departing by a neighbor who had also witnessed the screaming. She is helped by neighbors. Tiana is hurried to the hospital. Despite being on the run, James admitted to his brother that he had just stabbed Tiana. When Tiana got to the hospital, she passed away. She had too much blood loss and several stabbing wounds, according to her father Alvin. James Carter Jr. was apprehended and charged with murder less than an hour after Tiana passed away. James' trial got underway in October 2011. The evidence against him was overwhelming. James' brother and his girlfriend testified that James confessed to it that night. He was spotted on the security camera that Tiana's father had set. Tiana had also identified her murderer.
A man will be sentenced today for killing his ex-girlfriend on Valentine's Day. It all happened back in 2009. News 8's Kent Pierce live in New Britain this morning with details. Good morning, Kent.
Good morning, Ann and Chris. James Carter could get up to 65 years in prison for murder later today, but just as important as making sure he never hurts anybody again is the fact that this case actually helped strengthen state laws to try to prevent anybody else from doing what he did. Now, Carter and Tiana Notice were a couple. They broke up. He took it badly. She got a restraining order against him, but it didn't help. On Valentine's Day 2009, he chased her down outside her Plainville apartment and stabbed her 18 times. There were surveillance pictures. Her blood was on him. She was able to call 911 and say her ex-boyfriend had done it. A jury convicted him of murder and violating the restraining order earlier, actually a couple of months ago, this past November. Her family became vocal in the fight to strengthen Connecticut's domestic violence laws that now include electronic monitoring of domestic violence offenders. Her family also started the Tiana Notice Foundation. According to the foundation website, they have rented a bus, chartered a bus to bring dozens of supporters here for the sentencing later today. Live outside New Britain Court, I'm Kent Pierce, News 8.
Connecticut man who stabbed his ex-girlfriend 18 times was sentenced to 60 years today. 31-year-old James Carter Jr. was not in the courtroom when that sentence was handed down. In 2009, Carter waited outside Tiana Notice's apartment and brutally killed her with a knife. Outside court, her father showed a note he got from Carter that said it was an apology with a question mark.
60 years is not enough, but I understand it's the law. But to me, 60 years is not enough.
Carter could have faced 65 years, but he got 60. That case led to stricter domestic violence laws in Connecticut.
Tiana had made over 30 police reports in the days leading up to her death, but nothing was done. After the Waterbury and Plainville police departments were determined to have been negligent in this instance, Tiana's family was awarded a compensation of $10 million. And Alvin was determined to make things right so his beloved daughter's death wouldn't happen to anybody else's kid. He also recognized what was required. Alvin said, "More action from the police, more action from the lawmakers, more action from the courts." Since Tiana's death 7 years ago, he has taken steps that have caused Connecticut and other state officials to take the lethal risks of domestic abuse seriously. Laws have been strengthened to prevent domestic violence murders thanks to the efforts of the Tiana Angelique Notice Foundation. Tiana did everything she was supposed to do. She filed police reports, got restraining orders, and told family and friends. She was in fear for her life, and she was failed by the authorities who were supposed to protect her. This should have never happened to Tiana. My condolences to her family and friends. Tiana's death could have been prevented. May you find some way to heal after this tragedy. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.